Hi, I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking. And this time I've been thinking about improving my relationships ahead of retirement. And the reason I've been thinking about improving my relationships ahead of retirement is because I've been working on my plan for a fantastic retirement, and I've identified relationships as one of the 5 main pillars that need to be worked on if I want to achieve a fantastic retirement. So it's taken me a while to tackle this one, and I think it might be because I've been putting it off, because it feels like potentially one of the most uncomfortable areas to tackle. After all, I can't make other people like me or want to spend time with me now or when I'm retired. So this one feels like it could be a bit crushing if it goes wrong. However, I can't keep putting it off if it really is one of the 5 main pillars needed for a fantastic retirement. So if that's what I'm aiming for, then it's time to stop avoiding it and instead start tackling it. So I think maybe the way to get started is to use a similar format to the one I've used for the other important aspects of retirement. So I'll take a look at my current situation and then try to decide what I want the future situation to look like, and then start working on some practical ways to fill in any gaps that I find. So my current situation is that I have a husband and 2 almost adult children. Most of my relatives don't live nearby, so although I do have a wider family, they aren't part of my day-to-day life. I have quite a few friends, but if I'm honest, I haven't made enough effort with them in recent years, so most of them I don't see on a regular basis. I have lots of people at work that I like, but there are only 1 or 2 that I see regularly outside of work. So I think there's definitely some opportunities there if I want to carry any of those friendships into retirement. So that's my current situation, and although I've said that I have a partner, I think it's important to consider a future where I don't have one. The question of whether or not you have a partner is a big one for retirement, and both for financial reasons and for having someone to live your life with. And if you've watched some of my previous videos, you might already know that my husband has a tendency to drop down dead, which is obviously a bit concerning for the future. So although that situation might be fairly unusual, I do think that regardless of whether or not you have a partner currently, it seems sensible to give at least a bit of thought to what you might do differently if you ended up on your own. Because that situation could be come in for any of us, even if we're in a long-term relationship. So I think it's important to feel at least a bit prepared for that, should it happen. And I want to do that by making sure that I'm giving enough importance to the other relationships in my life. So that's where I want to start. And I do have a nice selection of friends that I've collected up over the years, but quite a few of them don't live locally to me, so I don't see them often. And if I'm honest, I don't keep in touch with them very well either. I also do have some nice friends from work, but as I mentioned, I'm not currently making much effort to see them outside of work. And I also have some nice friends that I've met through having my children, and I do keep in touch with them in varying amounts. So my friends span quite a large age range, so we definitely won't all be retiring at the same time or be able to do the same things, so I'll probably need to factor that into my plans. So as I mentioned, my parents, my brothers and all of my other extended family don't live anywhere near me, so they don't form part of my day-to-day life. And maybe that's something that could change when I'm retired. But at the moment, I don't have as close a relationship with them as I would like. I don't message or phone very often, so it's not surprising that I don't feel that close to them. So I'm not trying to make this a lesson in giving myself a hard time, even though it is starting to feel a bit like that. I'm just trying to assess the reality and whether or not I'm happy with it. And maybe the fact that I'm starting to feel bad by thinking about it tells me that I do want some things to change, so I think that's a good start. So that's my current situation, and it's been interesting to think about it. And really, the reality for me is that I've been working full time and also raising children for the last 20 or so years. So I haven't invested as much time and energy into my relationship as I would have liked. But now's my chance to change that. So what do I want the future to look like in terms of relationships once I'm retired? Well, I would like to have a partner, and I'm happy with the one that I have if he's still around. So I think the important thing there is to make an effort with each other and to make sure that we enjoy each other's company and that we have an understanding of each other's goals for the future. And we have already had some of those conversations, and we do seem to want a lot of the same things in retirement. So that's a good start. We also both agree that we don't want to make all of our plans around each other, so it's nice to agree on that too. There's no guarantee of always having a partner, so I think that's where friends and family become much more important. So I'd like to have a social circle that includes my husband, but I'd also like to have one that doesn't. And I think that's a healthy approach for anyone in a relationship. But I think it can be easy to deprioritize that if you're in a steady relationship and enjoy each other's company. But I think my husband and I have always been quite good at keeping some separate friendships so that and I think we can just maybe build on what we already have for the future. And that way, some normality would still remain if or when either of us ends up on our own. We also actually have a few differences in the types of trips that we'd like to take in the future. So sometimes taking a trip with a friend might be a better option. But we'd need to have friends that are close enough to make going on a trip feel like a viable option. So I think I'd like to start finding out which of my friends might like to do that with me so that I've got some options available in the future. And I think that would help both for sort of my variety in my life, but also for protecting the future should I end up on my own. I think the next thing I'd like to do is keep in touch more with my family. And I think realistically, they are too spread out to meet up with them in person very often. So I think I'll start by at least trying to make a bit more effort in terms of messaging or phoning in the future. And I think that would probably make visiting in person feel more likely if the relationship was already a bit more an established part of my life. And I think the last change for now is that I'd like to work on being a better friend. So I want to think about what that means and then to make sure I'm doing it. I do think I'm a good person, but the thing I'm guilty of is not making enough effort. So that's probably the thing that I need to change to become a better friend. So my plan this year is to make more effort with my friends, and that's definitely something that's within my control, and I just need to actually do it. So my main plan is to stop waiting for invitations from other people and to start being the one to send the invitations, even if it's just something simple like to join me for a walk. And I think that could make a big difference in strengthening my connections with people. So those are the practical things that I'll try to change this year to build on my relationships. But I've also been doing some research on the more emotional side of improving my relationships, and I've narrowed it down to 2 suggestions that I've been trying and that I would like to share. So the first one is an interesting suggestion that I came across quite recently that was intended to help with marriage and other long-term relationships, but I actually think can be useful with all types of relationships, including friends and family. And that is to try and stop being helpful if your help hasn't been asked for. So it might sound a strange piece of advice, but when I started really thinking about it, I could see that a lot of potential criticism could come from trying to be helpful. For example, if someone tried to help me with something that I don't feel like I want help with, like how to raise my children, it could feel like criticism or that I'm not doing a good enough job already, even if that wasn't the intention with the helpfulness. And I think as someone on the receiving end of that helpfulness, they might not be willing to speak up and say that they felt criticised, but they probably would feel less keen to spend time with that person in the future. So the relationship could be damaged as a result, but with the helpful person having no idea. So the much safer option, if you're trying to be a good friend or partner, is to just let people do things their own way, or to listen to them if they want to talk to you about something, but don't try to fix them. That allows the person to feel that they're good enough just as they are, or to feel heard if they want to talk to you. And try not to change the subject or to share your own stories until you know that they feel heard and have finished what they wanted to say. So the reason I wanted to mention this tip is because I've been thinking about how much I might be guilty of this type of helpfulness myself. So I've been making an effort to notice and to stop doing it, or to change the way that I do it. I think it doesn't mean that you can't ever be helpful. It just means trying to remember that helpfulness can come across as criticism. So it really needs to be handled sensitively, and then your relationships might improve as a result. So even something like showing my children how to do something that they haven't done before, it comes across much more respectfully to ask them first if they want me to show them how to do something, rather than saying something like, out the way, let me show you how to do that. And so maybe that example shows how helpfulness can be empowering or can be demeaning, depending on how it's delivered. So I've only recently started trying this, but I've already noticed a positive shift in my relationships. So I do recommend giving it some thought. Actually, does me telling you that count as me being helpful? I think maybe it does, but maybe, hopefully, the fact that you're watching this video by choice means that you're looking for tips. So hopefully that's okay. So, assuming that's okay, the other piece of relationship advice that I've found helpful is to remember to take responsibility for your own happiness. So, I think we should all be making plans to keep ourselves happy and not expecting our happiness to come from someone else. And if we set that example ourselves, that should encourage others around us to do the same. And if I think back to my video about happiness and relating it to this, the techniques I talked about there are so simple, but they really work, and they're all things that you can take ownership of yourself. And as individuals, we can focus on being grateful and being hopeful and doing something nice for other people and making plans for the future that we're looking forward to. And I think if I do things to make myself happy, it makes sense to me that I'll feel happier, but also that probably more people will want to spend time with me. So I'm planning to focus on my own happiness as a way to improve my relationships with other people, because I think it should make me better company and more fun to be around. So, have I managed to find some tips to take me from my current situation with relationships to the future situation that I'm hoping for when I'm retired? I think I have found some useful tips. It's still going to take some time and some more effort from me before I get there, but relationships don't happen overnight, so that's okay. And I'll just start implementing those changes and making those extra bits of effort that I've seen are needed. I don't want retirement to just creep up on me and then leave me feeling that I don't have enough people to enjoy it with. So I really do want to be brave and start making some changes now that will hopefully be enjoyable anyway, but will also make it more likely that I'll be able to achieve that fantastic retirement that I'm hoping for. So I hope you've taken something useful from this video, but I think that's all for this time. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.